Ambassador Yuki Chen stood in the center of the Grand Assembly Hall and tried not to smile. The chamber stretched above her like a cathedral made of light and crystal. Hundreds of alien species filled the seats that circled the speaking floor. Some looked like insects the size of cars. Others were clouds of gas, held together by force fields. A few resembled nothing she could compare to anything on Earth. All of them were staring at her with what she assumed was contempt. "Let me understand this correctly," Chairman Vorath said from his elevated platform. His voice clicked and buzzed through the translation device in Yuki's ear. He was tall and covered in purple chitin that gleamed under the chamber lights. 4 arms gestured dismissively at the hologram floating between them. "Your species offers kinetic projectile weapons as your contribution to galactic defense?" "That is correct, Chairman," Yuki said. She kept her voice steady and professional. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not polite chuckling, but open mockery. A delegate who looked like a floating jellyfish pulsed with colors that her translator marked as amusement. Another species, reptilian with silver scales, actually pointed at her with a clawed hand. "Kinetic weapons," Vorath repeated slowly, as if explaining to a child. "You mean you throw metal at your enemies?" "We accelerate metal projectiles using electromagnetic rails," Yuki explained. "Our railguns can fire tungsten rounds at significant fractions of light speed." More laughter. A delegate from the back shouted something her translator rendered as "cavemen with spaceships." Vorath raised one of his 4 hands for silence. The chamber quieted, though Yuki could still hear amused chittering from various sections. Ambassador Chen. "The Galactic Council appreciates Earth's enthusiasm in joining civilized space," Vorath said. His tone dripped with false kindness. "However, kinetic weapons were abandoned by most species approximately 15,000 years ago. We use plasma cannons, gravity disruptors, and quantum entanglement bombs. We have shields that can deflect any physical matter. Your railguns are charming in their simplicity, but they would be useless in modern warfare." Yuki nodded as if considering his words carefully. In truth, she had expected exactly this response. Earth's intelligence services had been monitoring Council communications for 40 years before humanity revealed itself. They knew how the Council worked. They knew what the Council believed about warfare, about technology, about primitive species from backwater planets. "I understand your concerns, Chairman," Yuki said. "Perhaps our weapons are outdated by galactic standards. We are willing to learn." Vorath's mandibles clicked in what might have been satisfaction. "An admirable attitude. The Council values species who recognize their limitations." He touched a control on his platform. A star map appeared in the hologram space, showing a region of space colored in angry red. "The Krynothi swarm has been advancing through the outer rim for 3 years, Vorath explained. "They have destroyed 7 Council defense fleets. Their adaptive shielding technology makes them nearly invulnerable to our weapons. They learn from every battle and adjust their defenses accordingly." Yuki studied the map. The Krynothi controlled a massive section of space and were pushing deeper into Council territory. She had read the reports. Each Council fleet sent against them had been annihilated. "We are assigning Earth vessels to the Krynothi front," Vorath continued. "You will serve in the reserve formations. This will give your species valuable combat experience and help you understand real warfare." The reserve formations. Yuki knew what that meant. Cannon fodder. Expendable forces sent in first to tire out the enemy before the real military arrived. The Council expected humanity's fleet to be destroyed. They probably hoped for it. A quick lesson to the primitive newcomers about their place in the galaxy. "We are honored to serve," Yuki said. Vorath seemed surprised by her easy acceptance. He had probably expected her to argue or beg for a safer assignment. "You will receive standard star charts and supply coordinates," he said. "The Council expects all member species to contribute to the common defense. Do you have any questions?" "Just one, Chairman," Yuki said. Will the Council provide updated intelligence on Krynathi shield frequencies and adaptive patterns? You will receive all standard battlefield data, Vorath said dismissively. Though I doubt it will matter much. The Krynathi have defeated species far more advanced than yours. Of course, Yuki said, bowing slightly. Thank you for this opportunity. She turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, she could hear the Council delegates already moving on to other business. Humanity had been judged, dismissed, and sent to die. Just another primitive species that would learn its place or disappear. The doors sealed behind her with a whisper of displaced air. Yuki walked down the long corridor toward the docking bay, where her shuttle waited. Her face remained neutral, professional. Only when she was alone in the shuttle, the doors locked and the communication system secured, did she allow herself to smile. She activated her encrypted quantum communicator. The device looked like a simple tablet, but it used technology the Council insisted was impossible. Command, this is Ambassador Chen, she said quietly. We're receiving you, Ambassador, came the reply. Admiral Park's voice was calm and measured. They took the bait, Yuki said. We've been assigned to the Krynathi front. Expendable reserves, as predicted. They expect us to be destroyed in the first engagement. Excellent, Park said. And the Council's reaction to the railgun technology? They laughed. Called us primitive. Exactly as the psychological profiles predicted. There was a pause. Then Park said, Do they suspect anything? So, nothing. Yuki confirmed. They see us exactly as we wanted them to see us. Backwards. Harmless. Ignorant. Then we proceed with Phase 1. Park said. The fleet will deploy to the Krynathi front within the week. We'll show them what primitive humans can do with kinetic weapons. Understood, Admiral. Chen out. She ended the transmission and leaned back in her seat. Through the viewport, she could see the massive Council station rotating slowly against the stars. It represented the power structure that had controlled the galaxy for 1,000 years. A structure built on technological superiority and the careful suppression of anything that might challenge it. Earth had studied that structure for 4 decades before revealing themselves. They had watched, learned, and planned. Now the first phase was beginning. Railguns first, Yuki thought. Let them think we're primitive. Let them think they know everything about us. The real surprises would come later. Commander Jackson Park stood on the bridge of the ESS Incheon and watched the Krynathi swarm ships appear on the tactical display. There were 47 human vessels in the fleet, small ships by Council standards, barely larger than frigates. The aliens had placed bets on how long humanity would last. 3 hours was the longest estimate. Most predicted 30 minutes. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Council Observer Station Delta. Lieutenant Kim Minji reported from communications. Put it through, Jackson said. A holographic figure appeared above the command console. The alien looked like a floating mass of tentacles wrapped around a crystalline core. Its voice came through, harsh and sharp. Human Commander, this is Observer Kelrath. Your fleet will advance to grid coordinates 77 Alpha and engage the Krynathi forward elements. Council forces will observe from the secondary perimeter. Jackson kept his expression neutral. The secondary perimeter was 30 million kilometers away. Safe observation distance. The Council wanted to watch humanity get slaughtered without risking their own ships. Understood, Observer. We will proceed to the designated coordinates. A word of advice, Commander, Kelrath said, and Jackson heard something like pity in the translated voice. The Krynathi adaptive shields can deflect any energy weapon we possess. Your kinetic projectiles will likely fare no better. But you may damage a few smaller vessels before they adjust. Make your deaths count for something. The transmission ended. Cheerful fellow, Lieutenant Kim muttered. Weapons status? Jackson asked. All railgun batteries charged and ready, sir. Lieutenant Choi Sung-min reported from Tactical. Tungsten penetrator rounds loaded. Point defense systems online. Navigation, Take us to the coordinates. Standard approach formation. The human fleet moved forward in a pattern that would seem conventional to any observer. 3 defensive spheres with overlapping firing solutions. Basic tactics that had been used for centuries by dozens of species. The Krenathi noticed them. Of course they did. 47 small ships approaching their position would register on any sensor system. The swarm began to respond. Jackson watched enemy vessels detach from the main formation. The Krenathi ships were organic-looking things, all curves and ridges like massive shells or seed pods. They moved with disturbing fluidity for objects so large. Enemy ships entering maximum range in 90 seconds, Choi reported. Hold position. Let them come to us, Jackson ordered. On the view screen, the Council observer station hung in the distance like a small moon. He imagined the aliens inside, watching and waiting for the slaughter to begin. They had seen this pattern before, primitive species with inadequate weapons facing the unstoppable Krenathi. It always ended the same way. 60 seconds to firing range, sir. All ships. This is Incheon actual, Jackson said into the fleet comm. Weapons free on my mark. Target priority Alpha as briefed. Remember, these aren't energy weapons. They can't see us coming. The Krenathi ships accelerated. Their shields began to glow with the distinctive shimmer that marked their adaptive defense systems. Those shields had absorbed plasma fire from Council battleships. They had deflected quantum entanglement weapons and gravity bombs. They learned from every attack and adjusted in real time. They had never faced railguns. Mark, Jackson said quietly. 47 human ships fired simultaneously. There were no dramatic energy beams or colorful plasma bolts. Just the electromagnetic acceleration of tungsten penetrator rounds to relativistic speeds. Small objects, each weighing only a few kilograms, traveling at 12% of light speed. The Krenathi shields didn't even register them as threats until impact. The first enemy ship simply came apart. The tungsten round punched through the organic hull like it was tissue paper. The kinetic energy transfer causing catastrophic structural failure. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as internal systems detonated. The second ship lasted barely longer. Then the third, fourth, fifth. The Krenathi shields were designed to deflect energy, to disperse particle beams, to absorb electromagnetic radiation. They had no defense against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The physics were simple and brutal. Mass times velocity squared. Kinetic energy that couldn't be deflected or absorbed, only endured. And the Krenathi ships couldn't endure it. Reload and fire at will, Jackson ordered. All batteries. Continuous barrage. The human fleet unleashed everything they had. Railgun rounds streaked through space faster than the Krenathi could react. Their adaptive shields tried to compensate, tried to harden against physical impacts. But it was too late. The rounds were already inside their defensive perimeter before the shields could adjust. Enemy attempting to scatter, Choi reported. They're breaking formation. Pursue and engage. Don't let them regroup. The battle became a systematic destruction. The Krenathi had tactics developed over centuries of warfare against energy weapons. Those tactics were useless now. The Redderling side. The Redderling century. The Redderling side. The Redderling side. The Redderling side. They tried to maneuver, but the railgun rounds were too fast. They tried to boost their shields, but kinetic energy didn't care about electromagnetic barriers. They tried to adapt, but there was nothing to adapt to. This was physics at its most fundamental level. 20 minutes after the first shot, the last Krenathi ship exploded in a flash of organic matter and escaping atmosphere. Jackson stared at the tactical display. 47 human ships, all intact. Minor damage to 3 vessels from debris. No casualties. In the debris field ahead, the remains of 32 Krenathi vessels drifted in, spreading clouds. Sir, Kim said quietly. We're receiving multiple transmissions from Council Observer Station Delta. They're demanding to know what happened. Tell them the battle is concluded, Jackson said. Enemy forces eliminated. We're proceeding to secure the area and will transmit full tactical data within the hour. He could imagine the chaos on that observation station. The Council had sent 7 major fleets against the Krynathi. All 7 had been destroyed or severely damaged. The swarm had seemed unstoppable, their adaptive shields the perfect defense against modern warfare. And then the primitive humans with their ancient kinetic weapons had destroyed a major Krynathi formation in 20 minutes without losing a single ship. "Commander, we're getting requests from every Council military channel," Kim reported. "They want our tactical specifications, our weapons data, our engagement protocols. Acknowledge all requests. Tell them Ambassador Chen will coordinate any data sharing through proper diplomatic channels," Jackson said. "And send this message to Earth Command. Phase 1. Complete. The Council is now very interested in human weapons technology. Over the next hour, as the human fleet methodically scanned the debris field and prepared detailed after-action reports, more Council ships began to arrive. Not to fight, to observe, to study, to try to understand how the species they had dismissed as primitive had accomplished what their advanced technology could not. Jackson watched them gather on the sensors like carrion birds around a battlefield. He thought about the briefings back on Earth, the years of preparation, the careful planning that had led to this moment. The Council believed that advanced meant complex: energy weapons, quantum mechanics, gravity manipulation. They had forgotten that sometimes the oldest solutions were the most effective. A rock thrown hard enough would kill just as surely as a plasma bolt. The principles didn't change. "Sir, Admiral Park is requesting secure communication," Kim said. Jackson moved to his ready room and activated the quantum communicator. Park's face appeared on the screen, and Jackson could see the hint of a smile on the Admiral's normally stern features. "Well done, Commander. The Council is in an uproar. They can't decide if they're impressed or terrified. Both." "Indeed. The chairman has already contacted Ambassador Chen 3 times, demanding access to our railgun manufacturing processes. She's playing her part perfectly, expressing appropriate humility." "How long until Phase 2, Admiral?" Park's smile widened slightly. "Let them stew for a while. Let them think they understand us now. Let them believe they've figured out the human advantage. At, and then, Commander, we show them what else we've been hiding. But that's a conversation for another day. For now, enjoy your impossible victory. You've earned it." The transmission ended. Jackson returned to the bridge and looked at his crew. They had done their jobs with precision and skill, just as Earth had known they would. The Council had tested them, expecting failure. They had no idea what was coming next. 6 months had passed since the battle at the Krynathi front. In that time, humanity had won 11 more engagements. Every battle followed the same pattern. The Council sent human ships to impossible situations, expecting losses. Instead, the railguns proved devastatingly effective against enemies that had adapted to energy weapons. Yuki sat in her office at Earth's embassy station and reviewed the latest request from Chairman Vorath. It was the 43rd request for access to human manufacturing technology. Like the previous 42, it was phrased as a friendly suggestion for mutual benefit. The underlying threat was becoming less subtle with each message. The Council requests that Earth share its kinetic weapons, platform specifications, for the collective good of all member species. The collective good. That phrase appeared in every message now. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. "Come in," Yuki said. The door opened, and a figure entered quickly, glancing behind as if checking for observers. Yuki recognized Sarah, a council member from the Avix species. She looked like a bird, crossed with a human, covered in silver feathers with large, intelligent eyes. "Ambassador Chen, I must speak with you privately," Sarah said. Her translator carried an urgency that needed no interpretation. Yuki gestured to a chair and activated her office's security protocols. Electromagnetic dampening fields hummed to life, blocking any listening devices or remote sensors. "We can speak freely here," Yuki said. Sarah settled onto the chair, her feathers ruffling with obvious anxiety. "What I am about to tell you could result in my execution if discovered, but I have watched your species these past months, and I believe you deserve the truth. I'm listening. The Council is afraid of you," Sarah said bluntly. "Not because of your railguns, though those concern them. They fear you because you developed something effective that they did not anticipate. You represent a pattern they have worked for centuries to prevent." "What pattern?" Yuki asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. "Innovation. True innovation. The kind that disrupts established power structures." Sarah leaned forward. "The Galactic Council does not encourage technological advancement, Ambassador. It suppresses it." Yuki kept her expression neutral, but inside, her heart rate increased. This was the confirmation Earth had been seeking for decades. "Explain," she said simply. "Over the past 2,000 years, 17 species have shown signs of developing breakthrough technologies, revolutionary innovations that could have changed galactic civilization. New forms of energy generation, faster-than-light communications, matter synthesis, advanced AI systems." Sarah's voice grew bitter. "Every single one of those species either mysteriously stagnated in their research or disappeared entirely." Disappeared? Civil wars that appeared spontaneous, economic collapses that seemed natural, asteroid strikes that looked like bad luck, plague outbreaks that defied containment. Sarah's feathers flattened against her body. "The Council has entire departments dedicated to identifying and eliminating technological threats to its authority." "And the Great Archive?" Yuki asked. "The repository of all galactic knowledge that the Council maintains?" Sarah laughed, a harsh sound. "Filled with carefully curated information. Technical specifications with subtle errors. Scientific theories with deliberate flaws. Just enough truth to seem legitimate, but designed to lead species down dead-end research paths. The real technology is kept in private vaults, accessible only to the Council elite." Yuki stood and walked to her window, looking out at the massive Council station. It represented thousands of years of accumulated power and control, and now she understood how that control was maintained. "Why are you telling me this?" she asked. "Because I am tired of it," Sarah said quietly. "I joined the Council, believing we were helping species advance. Instead, I discovered we were keeping them imprisoned. When I protested, I was told this was necessary. For stability. For peace. For the good of all." "The collective good," Yuki murmured. "Exactly. And now, the Council sees your species as a threat. Your railguns proved that simple, overlooked technology can be superior to complex systems. You made them look foolish. They cannot allow that to continue." "What are they planning?" Sarah pulled out a data chip and placed it on Yuki's desk. "Everything I could gather without being detected. Evidence of 17 species that were systematically destroyed. Communication logs showing Council orders for sabotage. Financial records of resources spent on suppression operations. If this information became public, the Council's authority would collapse." Yuki picked up the chip carefully. "This is incredibly dangerous for you to possess. I know. But I have watched too many promising civilizations destroyed in the name of maintaining order. I will not watch it happen again." Sarah stood. "Chairman Vorath is preparing to force your compliance. He will demand you surrender all railgun technology within the next few days. If you refuse, he will use military force. The Council cannot allow an independent species to maintain technological superiority. And if we do surrender the technology, then you will be studied, contained, and eventually eliminated once they understand your weapons. They will call it integration, but it will be subjugation." Sarah moved toward the door. "I must go. The data chip is encrypted with a simple cipher. The key is truth before power. Sierra, Yuki said. The avian paused. Thank you. This took courage. Thank you for giving me hope that things can change, Ambassador. Your species is different. I see it in how you fight, how you negotiate, how you refuse to accept the Council's assumptions. Perhaps you can do what 17 others could not. After Sierra left, Yuki sat alone in her office for several minutes, holding the data chip. She thought about the 40 years Earth had spent watching the Council before making contact. The patterns they had noticed, the suspicious coincidences, the species that had shown promise and then vanished. They had suspected. Now they knew for certain. She activated her quantum communicator. This is Ambassador Chen requesting priority channel with Earth Command. Admiral Park's face appeared within seconds. Ambassador, your expression tells me this isn't routine. Admiral, we just received confirmation of the Council's suppression protocols from an internal source. I'm transmitting the data now. Yuki inserted the chip into her terminal. It's everything we suspected. And worse. Park was silent as he reviewed the incoming data. Yuki watched his face harden. 17 species, he said finally. They murdered 17 civilizations to maintain their power structure, and they're preparing to do the same to us. The source indicates Chairman Vorath will demand our full compliance within days. Surrender of all technology, military oversight, complete integration into Council control. Or they use force. They've done it before. They're very good at making it look justified. Park was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "It's time." Then, we always knew this moment would come. The question is whether we're ready. Phase 2, sir? Phase 2. I'll coordinate with the President and the Security Council. You'll need to request an emergency session of the full Galactic Assembly. Not just the Council members, but all member species. Vorath will demand to know why. Tell him, Park said with a cold smile, that humanity is prepared to demonstrate the full extent of our technological capabilities. Tell him we're ready to share everything we've developed. He'll think he's won. Good. Let him think that. Let him gather the entire galaxy to witness what he believes will be our submission. Park leaned closer to the camera. But instead, Ambassador, we're going to show them something they've been told is impossible, and we're going to burn their house of lies to the ground. I went to get it. 2 days later, Chairman Vorath's official demand arrived. The message was polite, but firm. Earth would surrender all proprietary technology to Council oversight within 48 hours for the collective good of all species. Yuki sent her reply immediately. She would address the full Galactic Assembly in 3 days. She would demonstrate every technological capability humanity possessed. Complete transparency. Total cooperation. Vorath's response came within the hour, dripping with satisfaction. The Assembly would gather. All species would witness humanity's integration into the proper order of galactic civilization. Yuki looked at her final message to Earth Command. Release the Phoenix Protocol. Show them everything. The galaxy had lived under the Council's control for centuries. That was about to end. The Grand Assembly Hall had never held so many beings at once. Every member species sent representatives, not just the Council's inner circle of 40 species, but all 3,000 civilizations that paid tribute and followed Council law. The chamber had been expanded to 3 times its normal size, seating arranged in massive tiers that reached toward the curved ceiling. Yuki stood in the center speaking area and felt the weight of millions of eyes watching through direct attendance or holographic projection. This moment would be broadcast across the galaxy. Every species would witness what happened here. Chairman Vorath presided from his elevated platform, 4 arms spread in a gesture of magnanimous authority. He had spent the previous hour speaking about unity, cooperation, and the importance of all species contributing to the collective good. He made it sound noble. Yuki knew it was a cage. Ambassador Chen, Vorath said, his voice amplified through the chamber. You have requested this assembly to demonstrate the full extent of human technological capability. The Council has been most patient with your species, allowing you time to understand your place in galactic civilization. We are pleased you have chosen cooperation over conflict. Polite applause rippled through the Council sections. The minor species remained silent, watching. The Council now requires that humanity surrender all proprietary weapons technology for integration into our collective defense systems, Vorath continued. This is not a punishment, but a necessary step for all species. No civilization may hold technological advantages over the common good. He gestured toward holographic displays that appeared around the chamber. I have prepared documentation showing the dangers of technological hoarding. 17 species in our history attempted to maintain exclusive control of advanced systems. All 17 eventually threatened galactic stability and had to be pacified for the safety of others. Yuki watched the displays. They showed civil wars, system-wide collapses, species destroying themselves through arrogance and isolation. The Council's propaganda version of history, the official story of why those 17 civilizations had failed. She had seen the real records. She knew what had actually happened. Ambassador Chen, Vorath said, please demonstrate your weapons technology so that Council technicians may begin the integration process. Of course, Chairman, Yuki said. She pulled a small device from her pocket. It looked like a simple metal disc, about the size of her palm. I am prepared to show you everything. She placed the disc on the floor and stepped back. This is a demonstration of all human technology? Vorath asked. He sounded disappointed, as if expecting something more dramatic. Everything, Yuki confirmed. She touched her wrist communicator. Activation code. Phoenix protocol. Execute now. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the space around Yuki rippled. The air itself seemed to fold inward. There was no flash of light, no dramatic energy discharge, just a quiet distortion of reality. And suddenly, she was not alone. 500 human delegates stood in the speaking area. They had not walked in. They had not been hiding. One moment the space was empty, except for Yuki. The next moment, 500 people filled it, standing calmly in organized rows. The assembly fell completely silent. Yuki looked up at Vorath and smiled. Allow me to introduce the full Earth delegation. They were in Geneva 7 seconds ago. Now they are here. She could see Vorath's mandibles working, trying to process what he had just witnessed. Around the chamber, delegates were standing, pointing, their translators creating a cacophony of confusion and shock. That's impossible, Vorath finally said. Teleportation is theoretically impossible. The energy requirements alone would require the output of a star. The quantum calculations would take years. The Heisenberg uncertainty principle makes it impossible to transport matter with precision. Every council scientist agrees on this. Your scientists are wrong, Yuki said calmly. We discovered the solution 47 years ago. We have been using teleportation technology for over 30 years. She gestured, and several human delegates stepped forward carrying cases. They opened them to reveal devices, technical specifications, and operational logs. These are our teleportation platforms. They operate on principles your great archive claims are impossible, because that information was deliberately falsified to prevent species from discovering this technology. The chamber erupted. Species were shouting questions, demanding explanations. Vorath hammered his platform for order. If you possessed this technology, why did you approach the council with primitive railguns? Vorath demanded. Why hide your capabilities? Why hide your capabilities? Why TP? Why hide your capabilities? Because we studied you first, Yuki said. She activated a holographic display of her own. For 40 years before making contact, Earth observed council operations. We noticed patterns. Species that developed breakthrough technologies mysteriously failed or disappeared. We found it suspicious. The hologram showed star maps, timelines, Incident reports. So we tested you, Yuki continued. We approached with technology you would understand and dismiss. Railguns. Simple kinetic weapons that your energy shield doctrine had overlooked. We wanted to see how you would react to a species that succeeded with unexpected methods. This is conspiracy nonsense, Vorath said, but his voice lacked conviction. Is it? Yuki activated another display. Sierra's data, verified and expanded by Earth intelligence. These are the actual records of 17 species that developed disruptive technologies over the past 2,000 years. Not the sanitized version you show the assembly, but the real communications. Council orders for sabotage. Financial transfers to insurgent groups. Biological weapons deployed to look like natural outbreaks. Asteroid bombardments disguised as cosmic accidents. The evidence played across hundreds of displays. Communications between council members discussing how to eliminate the Vortex species when they developed advanced AI. Orders to destroy the Kelthian civilization when they discovered zero-point energy. Plans to collapse the Draxian economy when they created matter synthesis. You murdered 17 civilizations, Yuki said quietly. Not to maintain peace. To maintain your power. Vorath stood frozen. Around him, other council members were backing away, looking at each other with expressions that ranged from shock to guilt. Some had not known. Others clearly had. The Great Archive is filled with deliberate errors, Yuki continued. False research paths designed to waste centuries of scientific effort. Real technological advances are kept in private council vaults, accessible only to the elite. You control galactic civilization not through leadership, but through information suppression. A delegate from the lower tiers stood up. Then another. And another. Minor species that had existed under council authority for generations, never understanding why their own research never led to breakthroughs. Chairman Vorath, Yuki said, you demanded I demonstrate all human technology for the collective good. Here it is. She activated her wrist communicator one more time. Transmit package Omega. Every display in the chamber, every personal device, every holographic screen suddenly filled with data. Technical specifications for teleportation. The real physics that made it possible. The equations, the engineering, the complete blueprints. We are giving this technology to everyone, Yuki said. Free. Open. Complete. Because that is what the collective good actually means. Not hoarding knowledge to maintain power, but sharing it to lift everyone up. Vorath found his voice. You cannot do this. The chaos. The disruption. Species are not ready for such technology. You mean you are not ready to lose control? Yuki said. But it's already done. Every species in this assembly now has access to teleportation technology. They can verify it. Build it. Use it. She turned to address the full assembly. Earth does not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want to replace the Council's tyranny with our own. We want partnership, cooperation, actual progress instead of carefully managed stagnation. She paused. But we will not submit to a power structure built on lies and murder. The evidence of Council crimes is now public. What happens next is up to all of you. The chamber descended into chaos. Species were shouting at each other. At the council members, demanding answers. Vorath was trying to restore order, but his voice was lost in the tumult. Yuki felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. She turned to see Sarah standing there, tears streaming down her feathered face. Thank you, the avian whispered. Thank you for having the courage we lacked. Around them, the old order was collapsing. The council that had ruled for centuries was fragmenting, as species realized they had been deceived and manipulated. The revelation that humanity had tested them with railguns while holding teleportation in reserve made their arrogance clear. They had dismissed humans as primitive, while being incapable of achieving what Earth had already accomplished. Yuki activated her quantum communicator. Admiral Park appeared, watching the chaos in the assembly hall. Phase 2 complete, Admiral, Yuki said. The galaxy knows the truth. Well done, Ambassador. What's happening there? Yuki looked around at the chaos, the anger, the dawning hope on the faces of species that had lived in suppression for generations. Change, she said simply. Real change. For the first time in a very long time. 3 weeks after the revelation, Yuki stood in the same assembly hall and barely recognized it. The council's elevated platforms had been removed. The seating was reorganized into a circular pattern where no species sat higher than any other. Chairman Vorath's throne was gone. In its place was a simple speaking floor where any delegate could stand and be heard. Vorath himself was in a detention facility awaiting trial. 8 other council members had been arrested alongside him. The rest had resigned or were cooperating with the investigation. The evidence of systematic suppression and murder was overwhelming. 2,000 years of carefully hidden crimes were being brought into the light. The assembly had been in continuous session for days, trying to build something new from the ruins of the old system. It was messy, chaotic, and filled with arguments. But it was also real. For the first time, every species had an equal voice. Ambassador Chen, a delegate, called out. Yuki recognized her as Representative Tora from the Minari species, a small civilization that had existed on the Council's fringes for centuries. Your species has proven itself more advanced than we realized. Many of us believe Earth should lead the new galactic government. You have the technology, the wisdom to see what we could not, and the courage to act. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Dozens of species nodding, looking at Yuki with something like hope. She took a deep breath. This was the moment Earth had anticipated and prepared for. I appreciate your confidence, Yuki said carefully. But Earth must decline. Confusion spread through the assembly. Tora looked genuinely surprised. We did not reveal the Council's crimes to replace one ruling power with another, Yuki explained. If Earth took control, even with the best intentions, we would eventually become what the Council was. Power concentrated in one place always becomes corrupt, no matter how noble its origins. She walked to the center of the floor, where everyone could see her clearly. Instead, we propose the Open Archive Initiative. Every species contributes their knowledge freely. Every discovery is shared openly. No civilization controls the flow of information. Research is collaborative, not competitive. But there must be coordination, another delegate argued. Decision-making processes. Some form of structure. Agreed, Yuki said. But structure without hierarchy. Networks, instead of pyramids. Species working together on common problems, with participation voluntary and transparent. She smiled slightly. It will be complicated and inefficient compared to the Council's top-down system, but it will be honest, and it will allow everyone to grow, instead of being held back. Sarah, who now sat among the delegates as a representative of her species rather than a council member, stood. The Avix people support this proposal. We have lived too long under enforced unity. We would prefer chaotic freedom. More voices joined in support. Not all of them. Some species were frightened by the loss of the familiar power structure. Others worried about instability and conflict. But slowly, consensus began to build. Over the following hours, the framework took shape. The Galactic Cooperative, as it came to be called. A loose federation, where species maintained independence, but worked together on mutual challenges. Scientific research would be shared in an actual archive, not a censored propaganda tool. Disputes would be mediated through voluntary arbitration, not military force. It was imperfect. It would require constant work, negotiation, and compromise. But it was built on truth instead of lies. As the session finally adjourned for the day, Yuki made her way through the crowds toward the exit. She found Sira, waiting for her. "Walk with me?" the avian asked. They strolled through the station's observation corridor, looking out at the stars beyond the transparent walls. "I have a question that has been troubling me," Sarah said. Why did you choose railguns? When you had teleportation, when you clearly possessed technology far beyond what you showed us, why approach with the most primitive weapons you could have chosen? Yuki was quiet for a moment, considering her answer. Because we needed to understand who you were before we showed you who we are, she said finally. If we had arrived with teleportation, with all our advanced technology on display, the Council would have reacted differently. They might have tried to steal it, or they might have destroyed us immediately as a threat. We would never have learned the truth about how the galaxy actually worked. Actually. So the railguns were a test. Yes, a test of character. Yuki looked out at the stars. We wanted to see if the Council would welcome partners or demand submission, if they would respect different approaches or only value their own methods. The railguns told us everything we needed to know. Oh, you were judging us from the moment you arrived. We were protecting ourselves, Yuki corrected gently. Earth learned long ago that power without understanding is dangerous. We needed to understand the galactic civilization before we could safely interact with it. Sarah's feathers ruffled thoughtfully. And if we had reacted differently? If the Council had welcomed your railguns, had treated you as equals, even when they thought you were primitive, then we would have revealed our other capabilities gradually, building trust over time. We would have become genuine partners. Yuki smiled sadly. But you didn't. The Council saw weakness and tried to exploit it. They saw success and tried to control it. They proved they were exactly what we feared they might be. They reached an intersection where their paths diverged. Sarah turned to face Yuki directly. What else are you hiding? She asked. What other technologies does Earth possess that you have not shared? Yuki met her gaze steadily. Several. And we will share them when we believe the galaxy is ready. When trust has been earned on all sides. Not just demanded. That seems cautious. It is cautious, Yuki agreed. But caution is wisdom when dealing with the unknown. We learned that from watching what the Council did to 17 species, who were too open, too trusting, too eager to share their discoveries. Sarah nodded slowly. I cannot argue with that logic. Though, I hope the day comes when you feel safe enough to share everything. So do I, Yuki said sincerely. That is what we are working toward. A galaxy where innovation is celebrated, not feared. Where cooperation is genuine, not forced. Where being different is valued, not punished. They parted ways, and Yuki continued to her quarters. She had a transmission scheduled with Earth Command. Admiral Park appeared on her screen, looking tired but satisfied. Behind him, she could see other officials celebrating. The President herself was visible in the background. Raising a glass, Ambassador Chen, Park said with a rare smile. The whole planet is watching the assembly proceedings. You have handled this brilliantly. Thank you, Admiral. The initial structure for the cooperative is taking shape. It will be fragile for a while, but it has potential. Any indication of hostility from the remaining Council loyalists? Some grumbling, but no organized resistance. The evidence against them is too overwhelming. Most are trying to cooperate to reduce their sentences. Yuki paused. Admiral, several delegates asked again today about other Earth technologies. About what else we might be holding back. Park's expression became more serious. What did you tell them? The truth. That we have other capabilities we will share when the time is right. When trust is established. Good. Park leaned back in his chair. Between you and me, Ambassador, the FTL communication system is nearly ready for public demonstration. The quantum entanglement network that allows instantaneous messaging across any distance. When do we reveal it? Not yet. Let the teleportation technology settle first. Let species build trust through the open archive. Let them see that cooperation works better than control. He smiled slightly. Railguns first, then teleporters. Then faster-than-light communication. Each revelation, at the right time, when it will do the most good and the least harm. Yuki nodded. Strategic patience. Exactly. We played a long game with the Council, and it worked. We will play a long game with the galaxy as well. Not to manipulate, but to protect. Both them and us. The transmission ended, and Yuki was left alone with her thoughts. She walked to her window and looked out at the massive station that had once been the Council's seat of absolute power. Now it was transforming into something else. A meeting place. A hub of cooperation rather than control. It would take time. Decades, probably. Some species would resist change. Others would struggle with freedom after centuries of suppression. There would be setbacks and failures and conflicts. But for the first time in 2,000 years, the galaxy had a real chance at progress. Not the carefully managed stagnation the Council had enforced, but genuine growth, driven by open collaboration. And Earth would be there, sharing what they could when they could. Always watching, always careful, always remembering the lesson that had guided them from the start. Show your strength through capability, not boasting. Test character before revealing power. Trust, but verify. And above all, understand before committing. Yuki returned to her desk and began drafting her next report for Earth Command. Outside her window, the stars shone steady and bright, and somewhere among them, civilizations were downloading teleportation specifications and beginning to build a new future. Railguns first, she thought with a smile, then teleporters, and later, when they are ready, everything else. One step at a time. One revelation at a time. Building trust through demonstrated wisdom rather than demanding it through displayed power. That was the human way. And it had changed the galaxy forever.